Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin We Just Species. Uh, Chronologically, this is a Tuesday, March 25th. I don't mind telling the date because this is a timely interview. This is all part of a commitment I made to Garden State Film Festival very innocently 10 days ago, and I volunteered to kind of interview people for Conversation with Calvin. I never realized when I offered, 40 people would come forward and say, hey, interview me. And since I'm an old-fashioned guy, my values come from the 1960s where I grew up. I don't turn anybody away, and um, there are interviews and there are interviews, and I'm with Dr. Denise Wunderler, and also Vienna, whose picture is right behind. Vienna suddenly an angel, and we're going to talk about Vienna and Dr. Denise and Vienna's story. It's heavy stuff, and we're going to talk about something called SUDC, which I never heard of. Was in the healthcare field myself for a bit. This is about, we just talked for like an hour, and it was needed, for me just to understand. And we talked about spirituality, and we talked about Vienna and her journey, short journey, and things that I never even could comprehend, but I feel. That's part of this, Denise, is the feeling, with my grandchildren. I was telling you about that. So your journey and what you've done and what you are doing is so inspirational, and by the way, so needed, because there's this desert of things out there. So my monologue has concluded, and if you would just do some background and say a few things, and then we're gonna talk about Vienna suddenly an angel. So a little background, Dr. Denise, take it away.
Thank you so much, Calvin, for having me and for agreeing to do all these various interviews for other filmmakers for the Garden State Film Festival. So I I am so excited to be a part of this. I have my card here too. So I have I have my Vienna shirt on today
I see
instead of the
that.
Garden State. So yeah,
I
so
see
I
that.
would definitely thank the Garden State Film Festival. They've been an amazing team, truly an amazing film family. Like they're incredible. And I'm so thankful to be a part of this year. It's really amazing. Um, but at the same time, the reason I have a film is not a happy one, and that's the thing. You know, my daughter was alive, we wouldn't have a film. And I'd be fine with that, obviously. But yeah. So my little girl, Vienna, was almost 3 years old when she passed away. So I have three kids. She's our youngest. I'll starting with the letter V. Actually, our family lived in Holmdel, New Jersey at the time. It was 2017. It was November 12th, day after Veterans Day. My husband's a veteran. He's an Army veteran. He went to Rutgers too for one of his bachelors, by the way.
Wow, wow.
Yes,
Mm.
yes. And so we were in Holmdel at the time, and we had gone out for our the Veterans Day meal the night before. It was amazing, and the next day, then we went to a wedding, my husband and I, and so it was kind of towards Atlantic City area, I guess it was. So had a great day at the wedding. The kids had an amazing time at home with our babysitter. And then we're coming home from the wedding and find out that Vienna stopped breathing while she was watching TV, fell asleep, stopped breathing. And this is from our babysitter. Paramedics were on their way, police were there, CPR was in progress. This is at 7:02 p.m. that night. And so now I'm speeding up the parkway now, getting to either our home in Homedale or to the hospital. So, and as you know, I'm a sports medicine physician. My husband's an emergency medicine physician. So, we understand these terms that now they're discussing. So I only hear half of the conversation. I only hear my husband's side of the conversation. So I'm hearing various things like, well, first of all, I didn't know which child it was, and then I learned it was Vienna, and then learned that they had intubated her and that she was in PEA, which is pulseless electrical activity, which is essentially no organized cardiac rhythm, and all these other terms, no ROS, which is no return of spontaneous circulation. So I knew that this may not turn out well. But honestly, but in my heart though, I never thought that she wouldn't come out of it. I never thought, you would never dream that your child would pass away before the parents. And um so it was the next day when we were at the funeral home and looking at urns and preparing, for a funeral service. It was unbelievable. And then that's when we got the phone call from the medical examiner who did the autopsy and said, I found nothing wrong with your little girl. You took great care of her. Um, if everything comes out normal in terms of pathology, where you look at the tissue under the microscope, um, all the tests, toxicology, everything. If everything's normal, then she will be categorized as what's called SUDC, sudden unexplained death in childhood. We said, well, what do you mean? We've never heard of that. We're both docs here and never heard of this. And so then we learned, obviously, in the most tragic way, that SUDC is a category of death in kids 1 to 18 years old. So 1 to 18. So essentially, SIDS part 2 is how I describe it quickly. SIDS part 2, but in kids over 1. So after a thorough investigation, autopsy, and medical record review, if there's still no explanation for the death of these kids 1 to 18, it's considered SUDC. So, but the key is you got to know about it. If you don't know the term even exists, something else will be put on the death certificate. And that's well, there's a lot of problems. I do grand rounds lectures across the country and even into other countries to physicians. I spoke at Rutgers. Actually, that was one of my first ones, a good, no, maybe 5 years ago. And so, but you need to know the term even exists, because otherwise the child cannot get categorized in that. So we know the numbers are under what they should be. They're supposedly it's 500 or more a year of kids who will have this label of SUDC in the United States, but I know that's it's definitely higher than that. With more research and awareness and education, then that number will definitely climb as it has in the recent years. So, but that's, you know, so yeah, I guess I'll stop with that for now.
Okay. So we know what the name of the film is. Vienna, Suddenly an Angel. You have that poster, and I have this staring at me. Um, uh, I like the pink clouds.
Your favorite color.
Yeah,
So it was the easy choice.
yeah, I like the pink clouds. It stands
Thank you.
out, and I kind of figured it was her favorite color.
Thanks.
Um,
Yeah.
so background. So how did this film and how did this come to be?
So it was probably 5 years ago, and our nonprofit had already been, rolling since 2019. So doing lots of interviews, and actually it was during the pandemic, so tons of podcasts, interviews, like you're saying. Everyone's stuck at home, so everyone loves to do interviews, and so that was great. So someone had asked me, what are some goals of your nonprofit of Team Vienna for SUDC awareness? Which I'd founded what should have been Vienna's 4th birthday on January 19th. And so I said, well, one of the things I mentioned was I would love to create a film of some kind. I'm not a filmmaker, never had anything to do with film. I like to watch films, go to movies, things like everybody, but never ever would consider myself a filmmaker ever in a million years. I'm a physician, I'm a mom, wife, I coach rec teams, like I do a lot of different things. I like to stay active, climb mountains back in the day, and basketball player, just all these other things, but filmmaker was never going to be one of them. And so I thought. And so that popped in my mind. And so then it wasn't for until maybe 2 years later or so. And then I really started saying, you know what? Uh, I've done lectures, and I think that's a great way to get the word out to other medical professionals. So I speak it, all over, and then also some general public talks as well. And so I thought, well, you know what? If I can get a film and get it out there around the world, that would be an amazing way to get the word out and to educate. Because I mean, the whole mission of our nonprofit is honoring Vienna and educating the world about SUDC, raising awareness and supporting the research, which there's very little regarding SUDC. So then that's where the conversation started. Pretty much anybody who even had an inkling of knowledge of film, I would ask, hey, what about this and what about that? And brainstorming. And all different thoughts going through the head about all different, aspects of how to do this, because it's like you're saying, of course, it is such a tough topic. If it's a long film, no one's going to watch it. It's just what it is. It's a tough topic where, childhood and death should never be in the same sentence, but for us, devastatingly, it is. So I wanted to be able to open up the conversation. Unfortunately, I'm very comfortable with speaking about death and about death, because obviously it's very close to us in our family, thinking about Vienna every day. And, she's a part of our family of five. But so really, it was a chance meeting at Cross Farm Park in Holmdel, New Jersey, where the Holmdel police amazingly, very generously donated a bench, like all the funds for the bench. It was amazing. They're incredible. And we're still in close contact with two of the police officers who were there that night. They're also in our film too. So there's a lot of personal everything regarding this film. I mean, there really is. So we were doing an awareness event at her bench. It was a year later. It was a 2022. And so then we saw Marco Albrecht. We didn't know him. He didn't know us, but he was there with his son. Mike and I were there with some family and friends, and we're walking around the park, and we had roses, which I like to bring for, all different types of events, Vienna roses. And so he was intrigued by this, as I learned later. And so then he and my husband had chatted a bit, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then my husband told him, and then he's like, "Oh, well, I'm a director, a producer, a writer. I do, films and things like that, and videos." And my husband said, "You need to talk to my wife." And so then that was the connection. He's
Uh-huh.
like, "Denise, you got to meet, Marco." We met, and then we chatted about things. And honestly, I mean, this is again very personal. So it's like, I was like, I want to do it, but then maybe I'm going to pull back a little bit. Like, I was scared. I mean, I've gone through so many different emotions with all of this. Like, how much do I share? How little do I share? Do I share everything? Do I share some? What do I feel comfortable with? Do I feel comfortable with everything? Like, there's all these different questions in my mind of what to do, how to handle this. So I definitely was timid, and I'm typically not a timid person. Um, but I was, this is a different topic. This is not, talking about sports medicine, ACL tears, rotator cuff injuries. This is very different. So it took a little time, but then we gained this, wonderful momentum. And then we're like, okay, let's start getting, days on the calendar to film. And so it was pretty amazing. And then he put together this great team. And honestly, I could not ask for a better film team. I mean, they're just a great bunch of guys. And Corey doing the editing, and then out of Jersey, and then Alex out of New York City. He's been a photographer for over 30 years. And now he's doing cinematography. So, and I asked Ray to do some original music. Ray Anderson, who we were talking
Right,
about before,
right.
who played for all three of my kids. So it's really like a very personal short documentary, and very, I think very touching, and hope it's very inspirational for people, motivational, educational, hopeful. I want people to know that with whatever loss someone is experiencing, especially child loss, you're not alone, and we never say move on. Like, that never exists in our discussion, but it's moving forward. So whatever that looks like for somebody, but moving forward. And this is, part of that journey. So, and the short answer, I guess, is from local grief to worldwide advocacy and awareness, and really wanting people to not forget about Vienna, because she'll always be part of our family. And our film, of course, is dedicated to Vienna, but also to all the SUDC kids and their families, because we want everyone to know that we're not going to forget about our kids. Other parents, I'm not going to forget about your kids. We need to always remember our kids, because they're still so very important to our life, and every single day.
Well, you said something really profound, from local grief to worldwide awareness. Powerful stuff. By the way, you said something about Homedale Police, off topic, but the other day, a 19-year-old Homedale cop delivered a baby.
Get out. Really? I haven't heard about this.
My hand, I'm doing a Woody Allen, my hand to God, No, yeah, it was, on local news, ABC, something like that. And it's a 19-year-old. I think he's been obviously he wasn't on the force very long,
Hmm.
a matter of months, and he delivered a baby.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So you said Homedale Police, and it's the next town
Incredible.
over. So
Yes.
I follow local news. Um,
Yes. Yes. I did not read that though. And I follow the local news too out of Homedale.
well, unless I'm crazy, I'm pretty sure it was a Homedale cop. It was a young kid.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
yeah, and it wasn't a major feature on the news, although they tend to do that sometimes. But it was a blurb, and I saw a picture of the cop, and he was being congratulated by somebody. But I'm pretty sure it was Homedale. You can Google that. Homedale
I'll
cop
Google
delivers
it.
baby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do that as soon as we're done,
Me, yeah, me too. I'm sure it'll pop right up.
just to make sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
an off topic. Uh, I always ask myself, well, is there does the word prevention exist with SUDC?
Now it doesn't.
It
It
doesn't.
doesn't because it does not because we don't have any causes for this. Um, so without any causes, we don't have any strict preventions, to try to prevent this. So there's some research going on. Um, we are mostly closely related with Robert's program at Boston Children's Hospital. So actually, we're actually in 4 different research studies, but that is the one that I feel is the most comprehensive. They care, like just an amazing group of people. I went up there. Actually, they have a special lecture that was happening there today, a yearly lecture. SIDS and SUDC together. But I met a lot of the researchers last year, and they're incredible because you think about, I used to do research at Merck back in Rahway, New Jersey, actually before medical school in Kansas City, Missouri. So, I know a lot of researchers, and they're different type of people because I think you have to have that type of research type, oriented mind. And so meeting these researchers up in Boston last year, oh my goodness. I mean, and you say, of course, like, you're a real person, I'm a real person, and this is what we do. But wow, how they care so much talking to these researchers, and tears are coming down my eyes, and tears are going down their eyes. So, I mean, this is what they deal with hearing about kids passing away all the time. Because really, for SUDC, it's 500 kids or more a year in the US. So we're looking at least one child a day. So more and more people enrolling in the study, which is great, but at the same time, not great because that means kids are dying, so it's such a tough situation. But we are very involved with their research study, and actually our nonprofit, which is incredible, our small little nonprofit Team Vienna for SUDC awareness, we donated over 30,000
Wow.
to their research up in Boston, yeah, specifically on genetic research. So that was thanks to people from really all over the world, especially in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, surrounding towns, people who know us, and a ton of and strangers too, people who just want to help. Like, so I'm so thankful for everybody who's really joined in on the fight, and really making a difference together. And I feel that's why I feel so strong about the team aspect of Team Vienna. Because really, when I started Team Vienna, it wasn't even a nonprofit. It was right after she passed away. I said, I want to do something. I'm not sure what it is, but I got some T-shirts made with our handprint on the front. And we actually did a race in Seabright. So Vienna died November 12th, 2017. We did the race in May 2018. And I thought maybe like 20 people would show up for Team Vienna specifically. It was run with the Royals. It was to support a children's school in Red Bank, actually. So I thought this is perfect. Supporting other kids' causes, wonderful. I thought maybe 20 people would show up for Team Vienna. 200 people showed up, Calvin, just for Team Vienna on a rainy, windy,
Wow.
cold beach morning. It was amazing. People pushing their kids in strollers, plastic over them, like it was unbelievable. So it made me think, wow, so more this is bigger than me. This is bigger than our family. There's other people who care. There's other people, obviously, who this has happened to. People feel strongly about it as well. So I really felt that type of support, that I need to do something. I didn't know what it was, like what it was going to happen, what was going to eventually occur with I didn't know we were going to have a nonprofit or anything, but something else had to continue on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, uh, by the way, I don't know a lot about, the fundraising and stuff, but that's a pretty impressive number, what you've raised with Team Vienna. you know,
Thank
that
you.
that really um uh is a great number. It's funny, I had some involvement with uh pediatric hospital in New Brunswick.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and I keep nudging. He keeps sending me once a year. He sends me a holiday greeting, a little note, and I keep saying, let's interview, let's talk. And I got to some lectures on pediatric stuff at the
Mhm.
hospital. Dr. Arnold Rapson, I guess he's the MD in charge, and I keep trying to corner him and get him into a corner and let's talk about, the pediatric stuff is not high on the list. It's not high.
Sadly, it's not right.
No, it's
Mhm.
not. And
Yep.
then I'm just throwing it out there. So much more needs now as I'm listening about. I mean, I never heard SUDs. I never heard that.
SUDC. Right.
And I was
Hmm.
a parent, and we all knew about SIDS. And it's
Hmm.
funny. It's not funny. Early on, because I guess I do suffer from some elements of paranoia. And a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So early on, when we brought our son home, I used to kind of sit in his room, reading and stuff. I just wanted to watch and make sure he's breathing.
Right. Of course.
No,
Of
I mean,
course.
I did that for a period of
So did
time.
I. Absolutely.
Yep, and it
All
wasn't
through my
practical.
kids.
Yep, it wasn't practical, and sometimes I didn't even tell my wife. She's, I'd sneak out of bed and I'd go into the room, I'd take a book, and he's sleeping there, and he also had a thing I would he caught me for the first 10 or 12 years of his life. Middle of the night, I'd go in there and I'd give a little kiss on the forehead.
Hmm.
Daddy loves
Hmm. Of
you. I mean, I did that. It was a two-pronged thing. I wanted to let him know I loved him,
course.
and B, I
Yep.
wanted to make sure he was breathing.
Absolutely.
So when he was 12, I bent down one night to kiss him, and he was awake and jumped up and he said, "I caught you, Dad." I was so embarrassed.
He knows you love him.
Yeah, of
That was
course,
special. He'll always remember that.
of course. And
He'll always remember
the funny thing, he's
that.
39, and not a day goes, but he lives a mile away. Talk about lucking out. I mean, we
Yes.
really lucked out, the grandkids. But not a
That's
day
nice.
goes by, and he said, "I love you, Dad,"
Nice.
because that's what he heard from me.
Right.
And part of this, I don't mind showing it. Part of this
Yes.
tortoise in my hair, Journey to Spirit, is the relationship this character, parenthetically me, has with his father, what I would have liked better,
Oh.
and what molded me to be a better father, because the things
Hmm.
I would have wanted as a son, it was different times in those days, different responsibilities of parenting, not like it is today and stuff. So I would have wanted more. So when it was my time to go to bat,
Hmm.
um, uh, um, I was prepared to give more that I
Right.
didn't get. So it was a real powerful learning experience. And it comes out in the wash every day because the grandkids are clones and he's a clone, and not a day goes by. I love you, Dad. And
Yeah.
it's nice. It's nice. Um,
Very special.
so I know you heard you say this, but at no point, being physicians, did you ever hear that term SUDC? No.
Absolutely not. And that's why we were so shocked because, we're both in our early 50s. So, it's not like we were retired physicians, that this had come up afterward. So, yeah, the first paper actually regarding SUDC, naming it SUDC, is actually in 2005. So it was another thing where, you know, here we are 2017 at the time and never heard of it. Yeah, we were quite shocked with regarding that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also we didn't know anybody else who had heard of it either, except our medical examiner. She's the first person who told us about it. It was absolutely crazy,
Yeah.
unbelievable. So that's why it just, over time, once, I kind of had to go over the fact that, okay, I'm going to essentially expose myself and be open and honest and talk about this topic and very personal situation, devastation in our family, um, it became really clear to me how the education needs to get out there. And that's why, one of my first lectures was at Rutgers for the pediatric residency, and the Staten Island and Princeton Medical Center. I spoke there twice. So, it's been, and other places across the country too, of course, and also, which is interesting, the South Pole Medical Clinic in Antarctica, obviously virtual. Isn't that amazing?
It
Would
really
you like to know?
exists. Something like that exists.
Oh, yes, right. So would you like to know how that even came about?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm
My
leading into this.
goodness.
Okay. So one of the things that we do every year is called Vienna's Day of International SUDC Awareness. International. Okay. So pretty much our first year, which I didn't realize it was our first year, was the one in Seabright, the race in Seabright, right? As it turned out, people people started to send me pictures that day. We're in Seabright, 200 people. It was amazing just for Team Vienna. And of course, other people signed up outside of Team Vienna for Run with the Royals. So I was getting all these pictures from all friends all over. Denise, sorry we couldn't be there, but hey, here's our picture with a Team Vienna shirt on, and we're walking, we're volunteering. I'm like, this is amazing that they're doing all these wonderful things in Vienna's name. So that was super touching, amazing. So then what at the end, I'm seeing like friends of mine in Barcelona, sharing a picture with me, friends of mine in Brazil and in Israel, other places. I'm like, oh my gosh, we had, I think, four different countries, four different continents represented that first year when
Wow.
I didn't even know it was going to be a yearly thing. Okay. Four continents. I'm like, tears running down my eyes. I'm like, down my face. I'm like, oh my gosh, looking at my phone. Unbelievable. So then like the next year comes, subsequent years. So now essentially I'm creating an event. So now it's always the Saturday after Mother's Day. So Mother's Day is always on a Sunday, and then it's the Saturday after is always Vienna's Day. So now we are at I'm not sure what number it is, maybe seventh. I'm not sure. But so it turned out I was at a conference in Kansas City, hanging out with one of my buddies, my sports med buddy, Dr. Bob Adams, who he himself is amazing, track and field physician, for the USA like for decades. Anyway, so and a worldwide anti-doping guy. He's incredible. So and I was like, hey, Dr. Bob, I said, I would love. I said, I don't know about in Antarctica, but I would love to one day have all seven continents. How incredible would that be? And that was maybe like 2 months before Vienna's Day. It was like maybe March. We'd have our sports medicine conference, AOASM. Because at that point, I had a couple other friends who kind of filled in some other continents. So we were up to like five. Like I don't know anybody in Africa, and I don't know anybody in Antarctica. He's like, Denise, I think I can help out with Antarctica. I'm like, really? He knew some physical therapists who knew a physical therapist who knew a PA. As it
Mm.
went down the line, next thing I know, 2 months later, I'm getting these pictures from McMurdo Station in Antarctica, signed Team Vienna, like unbelievable. So I was like, holy cow, we just got seven continents. And so, remembering Vienna, supporting the nonprofit, and no one needs to spend any money. It's not about like this is an awareness day. If you want to donate, amazing. Thank you so much. But it's about awareness and really getting the word out around the world. People wearing a Team Vienna shirt and others saying, hey, what's that about? Team Vienna, what is this? I never heard of it. So really, so then every year since then, I think I can't remember, maybe 5 years and now of seven continents or so, 6 years maybe. But they've been passing the torch down in Antarctica. So it's McMurdo Station, then it's South Pole Medical Clinic, going different places. And because it's not always the same people down in Antarctica, because they go down for maybe 6 months, fly back. You can only
Yeah.
fly in and out certain times of the year, that kind of thing. And so amazingly, they're passing the torch and they're giving the information to the next people who are down there, trying to find someone and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. Again, more education about Vienna. Everyone down there who they were discussing this, with their medical personnel of some type, whether they're physicians or PAs or paramedics. So then, right. So then, I got into, well, then one of the people down in Antarctica, now she has the baton, right? Passing the torch. She's got this woman named June. Okay. Paramedics like, oh yes, wonderful. Would love to, support. Um, it turns out I had to record a lecture for one of the talks, like for an academy lecture. They want me to give it in person, but also record it. I said, well, I want to give it to, an audience. I really just don't want to talk because then I'm not talking to anybody, or maybe just the person who is not medical, just recording the lecture. So I said, hey, June, I said, can I give the lecture to the South Pole Medical Clinic? She said, yes, let's make it work. So between the hours that they had internet, because they don't always have internet, I prefer to speak in the morning because the talks just it's an hour long ground rounds lecture. It takes so much out of me. I think it's really important to do it, but it really takes a lot out of me, emotionally, physically, everything. So it was like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, 4 o'clock, not good for me, but let's do it. If this is the only opportunity, I got to grab the opportunity. So we did it. The internet worked, which is awesome. And so I then gave actually, I guess technically that was my second international talk. First was in Canada, and then this is my second. And then how it turned out, last part of this is that she's like, well, I've decided I would like to apply to medical school. I'm like, really? I didn't know that. Turns out she really liked my school in Kansas City. She didn't know that I was an alum of that school.
No.
And now she's a student there. And I got to meet her for the first time. I know it's crazy. Got to meet her for the first time in October when I was there in Kansas City for the homecoming. Like, unbelievable how kind of came full circle. And now she's an advocate. She's telling other students, other medical students who are going to become physicians about Vienna and SUDC. It's amazing. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, just how this has gone around the world, people helping in all these different ways, all big, little, everywhere in between. It's so appreciated. And I'm so thankful. We are so thankful. My family and I are so thankful for what everybody does. So it's just so cool, so
Yeah,
neat,
that's cool.
special.
It's wonderful. And you know what? It's going to keep growing. It's going to keep
Hopefully.
growing and showing and as a tribute, because I think you're at the very beginning of a whole new awareness for this. Yeah,
Well,
truly.
especially with the film. I mean, are you talking about like strictly like with the film you're saying, right? Because that's how I'm
Yes.
thinking.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
and it's really important for people to really, by the way, I think it's important for every parent, literally, and for every parent to see the film. Uh, truly, uh, because I've been
right.
there. I understand.
Mhm.
I feel. I know when I was a parent, and now the knowledge of this makes me even more diligent, more aware, and more aware spiritually of time and things that are beyond our realm. We talked about that. So this film is one hell of a noble cause. Yeah, it is. I keep looking at the picture. Um, um, uh, it's powerful. Um, so a couple of I mean, I'm here, and anything I can ever do, and continuing and promoting and talking, and I'm joining the team because it's a great team and it's a great face and stuff. Um, Off topic, you said you were a basketball player. Did you play like in high school?
College.
Oh, you played in college.
I did. Yeah, Muhlenberg College. Have you ever heard of it in
Yeah,
Allentown, PA?
sure. I
Mhm.
sure have.
Mules. Yep.
Matter of fact, that one of Rutgers football coaches drifted over there. I think it was Joe Susan. Drifted over there for a while. He was there at Muhlenberg for a few years.
Oh, is that
Uh,
right?
there used to be a great hospital in Plainfield, Muhlenberg Hospital.
Oh,
It
right.
just disappeared. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it just disappeared. I don't know where it went, but it disappeared. Um, but I was a huge. I discovered women's basketball 15, 20 years ago, and I became a season ticket holder
At
for
Rutgers.
Rutgers. Yeah,
Nice.
and those
Yep.
were the days of Vivian Springer, who came.
Uh-huh. She's
Yep.
awesome. Yep.
She, and people don't realize this, she took the Rutgers women to two Final Fours. And one I almost went to, the one in Cleveland. But I was such a
Oh.
I became a huge fan of quote girls basketball when
Mhm.
Marlboro High
Mhm.
had the number one. At one point they were number 7 or 10 in the country. Here, Little Marlboro High School, which has an unusual demographic. The
Mm-hmm.
demographic doesn't necessarily bespeak basketball, but somebody should do a short story on that basketball team. Because well, I'm talking about uh, 2004, my son graduated. So anywhere from 2002 to 2004, they were among the top teams in the state. They won a state championship. And I actually went, they played Christ the King, the number one team in America. And they beat them in Asbury Park,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, so I was friendly with all the parents, and I actually have the video of that game, and it was such a light bulb how good and pure the sport is. Dunking,
Very different than the men's game. Very
yeah,
different.
it was
Yeah, very
pure
different.
in my eyes. It was pure basketball. So
Uh-huh.
I became a huge fan, and that evolved in my starting to go to Rutgers Women, and I had season tickets, and I caught it at really a great time. Cappy Poindexter, and I mean the whole Matei Ajima, I mean all of Kia. Uh, I mean all. It was one. It was a beautiful thing, and they were so good, and I traveled with them. I used to. When they played in some of the tournament, they played Tennessee and Philly. I
Huh.
went.
Nice. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's when Coach Summit was still around, probably.
Yes.
Oh, when
Yes.
I went right. So, well, number one, thank you so much for supporting women's basketball. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
Um, and so now, when you said you almost see Vivian Stringer and Rutgers women play in Cleveland, was that 2008 by chance? Do you know the year? I'm just wondering because I was there at the Final Four with my husband. Well, he was my fiance at the time in Cleveland because that's where I did my residency and my fellowship in Cleveland.
Oh wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
I don't. You know what? I don't
Just wondering.
remember. I think it might have been a little bit later.
I'm just wondering. Just yeah,
It
you
would have
never
been a
know.
little bit later because there was one that preceded that. There was one trip to the Final Four for them that preceded that. And then this trip to Cleveland. I think that their journey through the NCAA's, they were so improbable. They were beating
Mm-hmm.
teams that were ranked, 1, 2, 3, and they were further down in the rankings. Uh, um, but I season ticket holder. I was so loyal to them, to the sport, and some of that was transformative. I met some amazing. I used to sit next to the Gallo family, and we became like a family. We were sitting together for 10 years, and you got 16, 17 games a season. And Michael Gallo the father went on to help create the Rutgers Cancer Center.
Is that so? Really?
That was his impetus, and he was a MD and researcher, and a lot of his
Oh,
energy and passion. And of course, I became friends with the son, great friends with Michael Jr., who's out in California now, got his PhD, and I interviewed his mother-in-law. All these things come from women's basketball. Um,
yeah.
I was so gratified last year, and I watched Caitlin,
Oh, she's incredible. Oh my gosh.
off the
Caitlin Clark.
charts,
Holy cow. Oh my gosh.
and what she did for the sport.
Mm,
And they'll be writing
hmm.
books, I guess, for years to come.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Incredible. And I still remember, so I don't really follow basketball because number one, we don't really have like, you know, the TV stations and channels to get those games. So, but of course, for the Final Four, I always wanted to watch it. So I remember my dad saying, my dad, thank goodness, still with us. They're 86. So they would of course always watch basketball. My dad would say, Denise, have you been watching Caitlin Clark? I'm like, no, who's Caitlin Clark? And so he's like, Denise, you got to watch her. You got to watch her. You got to look out for Angel Reese. They're budding. They're all this stuff. I'm like, okay, let me look out for them. And it wasn't until like one of the final it wasn't the final game, but it was like within the Final Four competition.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I had to get, whatever the station was. I like, let me get this really quick so I could get this game. But oh my gosh, I was flabbergasted. Like, I really wish that I would have known more about her skills before. Honestly, I wish I would have listened to my dad when he said, Denise, earlier in the season, you got to look out for this player. But wow, like what she can do is just it blows my mind. I mean, like how I feel she is really elevating the sport, getting more eyes on it. Like,
Mhm.
wow, just incredible.
Yep.
Yeah. And,
And
and, and
it's
also she works hard. I mean, what, 300 shots a day? I mean, you look at her routine every day. Like this girl's working hard to get where she is. It's amazing.
I mean, yes, it's natural, but B, it's work.
It's hard work. Yeah.
You know
And I
that.
know a lot of other women's basketball players, they work very hard too, but she's just seems like she's got it all.
And
You know?
I discovered her actually in her sophomore year at Iowa. And a game popped on, and of course I watched the guys. I've been a season ticket holder for Rutgers men for 30 years. I've been sitting through the pain, including this season. I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
But and I watched tremendous amount of basketball college. I watch no pro stuff.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
I'm
have
more
I don't have the
college.
strength. I don't have the energy. I
Hmm.
don't have the time, so I do it with college. Although college now is becoming, you can't tell the difference between college and because everybody's getting paid.
Well, I heard right. I heard that. That's new,
Yeah, that's relatively
right? That's
new,
new. Yeah, yeah.
and the sport I think has lost something because now kids bounce around. And by the way, they should have been getting a hell of a lot more than they've been getting. And
Hmm.
I think the NCAA was wrong all these years. Whatever, I don't. We're extending the bounds of this, and most importantly, to conclude that everybody and I promoted should see and learn and feel Vienna suddenly an angel. Um, and that's the whole purpose of this, um, uh, to see it really. So uh, I officially thank you for your time and your passion and for being here and sharing this about Vienna. Um, and to be continued because anything I can ever do, in some parenthetical way, I like to be on Vienna's team. So thank you so much. So I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.
Um, and
Well, so yeah, and also before you start recording, I also want to say also publicly, thank you so much, Calvin, for everything that you've done to support, filmmakers and the Garden State Film Festival. And thank you so much for having me here today and giving me the opportunity
oh
to
yeah,
talk about my little girl and our film that we're so proud of. And we really, it's a 20-minute short documentary. I mean, from our private screenings, people have told me, they've shed tears, they've laughed, they've, felt hopeful, they've felt, motivated, just all these different type of emotions. And that's really what I'm so happy to hear, because I want people also in the end, we all know how why we have this film. It's not a mystery that she passes away, but in the end, I want people to feel okay. Let's go down. Let's do something about this. Let's be motivated and move this cause forward. If everyone after they see the film tells one person, they come out of that screening, which we only have like 11 tickets left, by the way, for Saturday. So if you're
wow,
coming, let me know. I
wow.
can get you a ticket. But yeah, there's only 11 tickets left, though, as I understand. So, but if everyone can come out of that film on Saturday, and there's 125, as I understand, in our screening room, and talk to someone else who's never heard of SUDC. That's now 125 plus another 125 people who now know about this, who now know about my sweet girl. And then from then, it'll just keep going on, on and on and on, all these ripples and hopefully big ocean waves of spreading the word,
Yep,
about this all over.
that's
That's
how
the
it
hope.
happens.
Yeah.
Believe me,
Thank you so
that's
much.
yeah.
Thank you for
No,
having
my
me.
pleasure. Don't leave. I'm just going to stop recording.
Okay.